Louisiana Beer Reviews, Hurricane High Gravity Revisited. Hurricane High Gravity, 8.1% alcohol, and according to one of the websites, there's a 12% alcohol version. I've never seen that, and I don't really believe that. This was introduced in 2005, the original Hurricane being introduced in 1995. It gets a poor rating on Beer Advocate, although the bros, the Alstrom brothers, give it a good rating. It gets a 3 out of 100 on Rate Beer, and actually gets a 0 out of 100 and a 3 out of 100 on the Style. It gets a most excellent rating on the Beer and Me, however. Before Anheuser-Busch updated their website, they referred to it as a, quote, high-end, unquote, malt liquor. A high-end malt liquor. They say on the Southern Eagle, one of the distributors, Anheuser-Busch distributors website, Southern Eagle says they use extra barley malt, choice pale and München malts, or Munich malts, and select unmalted barley. And the hops are U.S. grown hops. In Louisiana, we really only see the 24-ounce cans and the 12-ounce cans, which are almost always sold in a 12-pack. It is very common in Louisiana, whereas the Hurricane, the regular 5.6% Hurricane, is almost not sold, although it is. There's also a Hurricane Ice, which is only sold, according to Anheuser-Busch, what they told me, in the northwestern states, Washington, Oregon, and such. You will see this pretty much everywhere, any gas station, and in the 24-ounce cans, and in grocery stores, usually in the 12-pack, 12-ounce cans. All right, I had it once before. I want to revisit it. I mean, I've had it many times, but I've reviewed it once before. All right. In Canada or Great Britain, this would be called an extra strong beer. Lots of smoke. Lots of smoke. Now, before this came out, the Hurricane was pretty widely available around here. But this has superseded it, except for one place, which I will let you know when I do the Hurricane revisit. There's one place in southeast Louisiana I know of that sells it. All right. Well, comes a train. We have a thick white head and a clear golden appearance, and not a whole lot of bubbles streaming up, actually. I don't know what this code is. If you've noticed, Anheuser-Busch has gotten away from their born on date. You rarely see that. At first they had it on all their products, now it's just on a few, and probably pretty soon on none. It says ale on the side, but then it says lager ale. Obviously it's not an ale. That's just done for legal reasons, because you're not allowed in the United States, the land of the free, to refer to beer as an extra strength beer, and beer can't be over 5% alcohol, I think. But you can call it lager or ale or all these other designations, which is the same thing as beer, so it's totally ridiculous. All right, hold on a second. Already reviewed a 17-ounce, 6% English ale today, and I noticed when I made a phone call to somebody, I had to be very measured in my speech so that I could get the words out without any kind of slurring. And that will probably be worse once I drink this, and I'm not going to drink the whole 24-ounce. I'm going to save the rest till this evening, which probably will reduce the quality of it. I got to eat some potato chips. We're going to have some issues here. All right. The aroma. Well, there is some spiciness in the aroma. That's probably coming from the hops. American malt liquors tend to have a higher IBU rating than a regular American lager. American lagers tend to be around 12%. The malt liquors tend to be around 17 to 20, I've noticed, probably to help balance out the heavy malt presence. And this website says they use extra malt. Do we have some decent lacing around there. The aroma really, though, is more just standard beer than anything. But let's go in with the taste. You know, the initial flavor is standard American style lager, adjunct lager. Just straight up beer taste, dry. Relatively light bodied, a dry, crisp, refreshing finish. But then the alcohol starts to kick in and you get that sweetness. And I mean, it just, almost immediately starts to go into the bloodstream. I don't know what it is about this beer, but it really is potent. It's in that way. There's some sweetness. A relatively, I say relative a lot. I'm not Nick Saban, but a relatively higher, but it really makes the point, higher sweetness than you would get with, say, let's say a Budweiser. Some people would say it's cloying, it's overly sweet, it's chewy, it's nauseating in a way. I don't find that. I think, and you do see that with some malt liquors, there's no doubt. But with the Hurricane High Gravity, you can tell that Anheuser-Busch really took their time with this. They were careful to give it a very round, balanced presentation. Okay, a crisp, even flinty mouthfeel, which you get with the Budweiser, the Bud Ice, the Bud Light. That's just really, Anheuser-Busch likes that crisp, clean, refreshing, flinty presentation, that snappy presentation. It's just sort of like an Anheuser-Busch. You get that with Busch beer and Busch Ice and Busch Light. That's an Anheuser-Busch characteristic. Of course, we know that now they're owned by InBev, although they seem to have kept their Anheuser-Busch integrity. And the Budweiser American Ale seems to be failing. I see it in less and less stores. The distributor told me it's not going to be around. That was an attempt to get into more of a craft style beer, which just did not appeal to, I don't think, to the Anheuser-Busch core audience, which doesn't like that soft mouth feel, that overly sweet. They like the flinty, crisp, refreshing presentation. It's just an Anheuser-Busch characteristic, and I don't mind it. It's funny because a lot of beer reviewers they rip on Anheuser-Busch, whether that's through some sort of obligation or my theory is that it's fashionable to rip on Anheuser-Busch. I think there's sort of a latent jealousy of the company because of a few things. They're very popular. They've been around since 1876, even though they've been bought out for the last, since '08 by another company that's been around a long time. They're mass marketed. Their quality control standards are unmatched. You get an Anheuser-Busch product, I don't care if it's a Hurricane High Gravity or Budweiser or Bud Ice or Bud Light, Busch Ice, really you can name them all, and they're going to always be the same, okay? And I like craft beers, but the problem we run into with craft beers and the smaller microbrews is that their quality standards are suspect. You might get one craft beer and it's outstanding, it's wonderful. You get another one 6 months later and it's obviously off. They just don't have that efficiency, that quality control that the big Coors, the Anheuser-Busch, the Coors, and the Miller have. Now I have great admiration for that. It's true, I've always had sort of an attitude about the people that rip on the major brands. I've always tended to defend the major brands. When I started drinking beer in February '96, I was impressed with the Miller High Life and the other brands because of their consistency. But as soon as I started drinking beer in February 1996, I always drank the craft beers. Okay, people will tell me on YouTube, "You want to try some craft beers?" Well, I've been doing that, okay, for over 15 years. I just don't see where they, except for big companies like, Samuel Adams, they just do not have the quality control standards that Anheuser-Busch has. And getting back to this, it's sweet. You taste the barley, you taste the hops. It's very round and balanced. It's very enjoyable, and therein lies the danger, because you're going to drink this, and it's not that heavier, not that stronger than a Busch beer or a Busch Ice or a natural ice. And you could just be drinking it, enjoying yourself, and then you go to stand up and you realize that there's a serious problem that's developed. You're not going to be able to drive without serious risk to yourself or others. So although Hurricane High Gravity is a very good beer, and I would give it at least a B+. I think it is very good. I have great admiration for it, but it's like fire. Fire has uses, so many uses, but it's dangerous. So it is good, but it's dangerous, and it's an explosion. All right, so be wary when you drink it. Anyway, look at that lacing. I mean, it's a fine beer. I mean, it really is a very good beer, and that's just the way I feel about it. So, laissez le bon temps rouler. Hello, laissez le bon temps rouler. This is a very good beer, and I'm gonna end this review by saying, y'all come down to New Orleans and go to the LSU football game. I really need to eat some more of these chips. All right, later.